Hello, welcome to the Comprehensive Assessment of Leadership for Learning, or CALL. This will be a demo of how to use the online CALL reporting system. No matter what version of CALL you're using, which there are a few different versions you could be using, the feedback report will look and function the same way. So while I go through the report, you might see different domains and different practices and different item labels. That's okay. The functionality remains the same, and this is just to show you how to use that functionality. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do is log into your call dashboard. And how to do that will be go to leadershipforlearning.org and click sign in. In the login screen, enter in your login information. If you need to reset your password, you can do that here. Okay, you'll see your school or multiple schools in your dashboard, and what you'll need to do there is just click View Report. You can do that here. You can also do that by clicking on the name of your school and clicking on the View Latest Report here as well. Okay, but you can click on View Report on this screen, and it will generate your report automatically. If this is the first time you're generating the report, it might take a little bit longer than usual. But from that point forward, you will see your report anytime you click View Report, and it should only take a couple seconds. Okay, I'm just going to scroll through this first screen here slowly, and just so you can see what the report looks like. If you've used Call already, then you can click along and follow along in your own report. If this is the first time you're seeing it, then let's see what we can see here. So as I scroll down, you'll see some information here, of course. You'll see a construct of this particular area of what we're talking about, a description of that area or subdomain or practice, depending on, again, what version of call you're using. You'll see some quantitative information here on the left. Our school's rating, broken down by role as well, and the call rating, and again, that call average, that average will vary depending on when you're using call and, of course, what version of call you're using. This might say for domains call average, it might say weed assist average, might have another version of call there. All these numbers here, this data is on a 5-point rating scale. So when you see these numbers here, this is based on a 5-point scale. There's lots of ways to cut into the information here. What we're looking at here, as you see these tabs across the top, is areas of strength. We'll spend some time in improvement needs in just a moment, but let's look at view by domain. All versions of call are organized by domain and subdomains or practices and items. You'll see those domains numbered on the left. In this case, we have 5 core domains. And then you'll see within each domain, there are what we call here subdomains. Those are the subcategories of the larger domain. For any of the domains, I can click on View Subdomains. It will open up the domain, and then I'll see these subdomains listed below. One subdomain at a time. Now, as I start to scroll through just this one domain until we get to domain 2, you might start to think, wow, that's a lot of information, right? That's true, it is. And we do not want, nor do expect, nor recommend for anyone to click through every single data point in call. Call, by nature, is very comprehensive. We ask a lot of questions, as you might have experienced already, and there's a lot of data that's collected. But that is so that we can take a wide view, but then drill more deeply into what our pressing needs are. So rather than look through every single data point in the reporting system, let's leverage or use the reporting features within the system to be more efficient in our time. So what I'm going to do is click over to improvement needs. Now, we spent some time in areas of strength as well already. What areas of strength is going to show are the areas of strength on call, of course, and it's pulling out subdomains that can come from any of the 5 domains here. And you can see that these subdomains are above the call average. But a lot of schools are going to spend time focusing their energy on improvement needs. You do need to celebrate the wins, your successes, your strengths, but we also want to look at how we can improve. So the call system will also identify areas in need of improvement, subdomains that are below the call average here. And again, they can come from any of those 5 domains. For example, this is subdomain 3.1, collaborative school-wide focus on teaching and learning. This is taken from domain 3. This subdomain, the summative evaluation of student learning 2.2, is taken from domain 2. When you work with people who support you in the use of call, they are going to encourage you and guide you to drill down into a specific area. So we can look at 2.4 in this example, the summative evaluation of teaching. So looking at this subdomain, which has been identified as an area in need of improvement, we can see what this subdomain is focused on through this little description. We can see our school's rating. We can see it broken down by role. We can look at those roles and see how they might compare to each other, where we might see administrator ratings higher than teacher ratings, which is always something we want to look for. And then, of course, we see that it is well below the call average. That's how it has been identified as an area in need of improvement. What we want to ultimately do is click this big orange button that says View all items in this area. So I just did that, and it'll take us to this page, which is going to show us the items in 2.4, the summative evaluation of teaching. For every question, we will get the construct, the individual item rating, the average of that rating, which is our national average. That would be all the schools in the system, all the respondents in the system that have rated this question here. We get the question itself, we get the response options, and the distribution of responses on the right. And we get this histogram that shows the distribution as well. So certainly, we want to look for questions that catch our eye, catch our attention. Maybe it's because we see that we are doing well in an area. We might also look for items, of course, that raise our attention because we have a strange distribution in this case, right? A different set of experiences. In this particular question, we're asking about school leaders visiting a teacher's classroom or worksite to observe teaching. 38% of respondents said, this does not improve my teaching, while 32% say it somewhat improves my teaching. Ultimately, we want to build toward it significantly improves my teaching, but I might be curious as a school leader as to why we have such a different set of experiences among my teachers in the school. And I might want to take note of that. Stay tuned for more about that in another video of how we take note of something like this. But of course, we also want to look for questions where we see a lot of opportunity for growth. In this case, 60% of respondents say they do not engage or do this evaluation practice. And this is asking about meeting with school leaders to talk about my teaching after I visit to my classroom or work site. That's how the process works for drilling down into the call data. Because call is focusing on the work, because it's practice-oriented, it's task-based, it's focusing on activities, an individual item alone could inform the work we do as a school going forward. Maybe this is something we want to do more of as a school. We do our evaluations, as we've seen in the other data, but we don't follow up. We don't have the post conversation, and it's perhaps going to be a reason why our evaluation, our observation process is not as effective or meaningful as it could be. And this question alone could drive our change work going forward. We'll look at a couple other aspects or features of the call reporting system. We looked at the tabs across the top here at areas of strength. We just looked at improvement needs. We started with the view by domain. I'm going to go to this last tab here, the top 10, bottom 10 tab. So when we looked at improvement needs and areas of strength, it was giving us those strengths and improvement needs, according to the subdomains, the subcategories, the groups of questions within call. Top 10, bottom 10 does something similar, but at the individual item level. So no matter what domain or subdomain a question is in, it could show up as a high-rated or low-rated practice. So I am in top 10, bottom 10 tab, and I have a chance to look at some data here in different ways. So the first thing I want to show you is this says view, and we're looking at our top 10 practices. And you can see, in this case, this is a really highly rated practice in this school that, based on our experience, ELL students are accurately identified for support services. Great. I can also change that to top 10 practices by differential to average. So instead of just looking at the highest rated, we're going to look at it according to it being compared to the average rating here. And by doing that, we see that there's a slight change. That practice before is probably still going to be on this list, but now we see that our school, in this case, has, and based on our experience, has done a good job of identifying students with emotional behavior disability, especially compared to the national average. Now, this is based on our experience. Just as a side note, this is information we want to cross-reference with what we have in terms of our numbers, that in terms of students that are identified for EBD. We can also look at our bottom 10 practices. In this case, how coaches are being allocated for their time. We also can look at it according to, in comparison to the differential to average. So you can see lots of different questions here, for such as this one, right? We can see a lot of different responses here, and the question being here, how often do school leaders schedule time for teachers to discuss the following topics? Strategies for instruction, and we can see that a large cluster is either never happening or only happening once a year or even just happening once a semester. Again, because the call items are focusing on work practices, even frequency practices like this, all the items are going to be built on a continuum. So we almost always want to build towards these last couple options here because these are optimal practices. We want to see, in this case, teachers talking to each other about strategies for instruction more frequently, right, than once per year or once per semester. We want to make this a regular practice. So as a school, this is something we may want to build toward, right? Having this be a regular monthly engagement. Let's look at one more thing before we go, and certainly there are some other features and functions to look at, and I encourage you in your reporting system to click around. Change the way you look at the call average. Change the way you're viewing the data instead of viewing by role, which is the default view. What I'm going to do, though, is go back to our view by domains and subdomains and look at one of these areas here and hypothetically say that we've spent some time looking at this subdomain 1.1, maintaining a school-wide focus on learning. We've drilled down into individual practices. We've read a little bit about what this is about. We've looked at the different roles. Maybe we've even clicked around and looked at the different ways to compare the data here. But now as a school leader or as a school leadership team, we might be left with the question of, well, okay, what do we do now? Well, one thing you can do is click on View Strategies and Suggestions, which is a button that is within every subdomain within call, but it's going to present a different set of strategies and suggestions for each of those subdomains. I'm going to click that here. And now we're looking at strategies and suggestions for 1.1, maintaining a school-wide focus on learning. So these are research-based strategies and suggestions developed at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. These are ideas, suggestions, strategies that school leaders and leadership teams could consider if they are focusing on, in this case, 1.1, maintaining a school-wide focus on learning. Maybe these are things you're doing already. Maybe these are things you've done in the past. Maybe there's things you have yet to do. What we hope this will do is set you on a path forward, give you some ideas of next steps to take so that you're not left with the question of, well, I have no idea what to do next. This just provides some guidance, some suggestions, some strategies on some next steps. Ultimately, though, what you'll want to do is work as a team, develop action steps, implement them into your school improvement plan, and then reassess by implementing call again after some time so you can measure growth over time. So this has been a basic demonstration on how to use the reporting system. We'll have some other videos that will show you how to use more features within the reporting system, such as the My Custom Report, which is a very important tool to use, especially if you're using this for school improvement planning. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for your participation, and hopefully you're able to leverage this data for your own use and for your school improvement use as well. Thanks.